finished watching the Irish Megaphone's latest video called Ernst, Wolff, Corona and the Collapse of the System, which I recommend everyone watches. It's very good, it's quite informative, and Tim did a fantastic job in translating the old Deutsch into English. So it's a German economist talking about the incoming worldwide recession due to this coronavirus pandemic, and I'll leave a link in the description box below for everyone to check out. I did originally leave a comment to the video, but then I decided, heck, I might as well put my own thoughts on how it will play out into a very short video, a kind of a response video. So here goes. Before I start, I'd just like to touch on the coronavirus pandemic. Now, I think this coronavirus pandemic is a sham. I mean, there's a virus for sure, yes, I'm not arguing that, but it's a kind of a sexed up version of the flu. I mean, they say follow the facts, and I do. And the facts are that the death rates in a lot of countries are pretty similar to what they've always been. Some are up, some are down, but it's not a huge jump that you would expect if this virus was as bad as everybody is saying. That's because it's killing the old and unhealthy, who die every day, all the time. It's not killing young people in any great numbers. It's not killing healthy people in any great numbers. It's the old and people with underlying health conditions. So is that enough to shut down the world and plunge us all into a crippling recession? I'm sorry, I don't think so. I just don't see why we should, because in the long run that's going to have a worse effect. I think that we're due a recession, and this is just an excuse for a reboot without ordinary people getting too hot-headed and taken to the streets over losing their jobs and livelihoods. There will be anomalies, of course, like in Spain and Italy. I mean, if you take Lombardy in North Italy, for example, the death rate is 4 times larger than normal. At least it was the last time I looked. But that's also due to the reporting of the numbers and how they record who dies of coronavirus, which seems to be all-encompassing. It's also due to the neglect of the elderly, and also swamping of the local hospitals due to hysteria and mass panic. And that, of course, will result in some people not getting the same care and treatment. It's also a very heavily polluted area and has a large Chinese population from Wuhan. So, I mean, you have to take into consideration all these factors. You can't just easily dismiss them, especially when you look at the numbers in South Italy compared to the North, or Italy's neighbours, Austria, which had, at the time of making this video, had 350 deaths, Germany 3,000, and Switzerland 1,000, where it's nowhere near the same amount as what Italy overall is hitting, which at the time of this video was 20,000. Or if you want another example, look to China and its neighbours. I mean, 4 deaths in Hong Kong, 4. And how densely populated is that place? 6 in Taiwan, 6. I mean, come on. And Ireland's so far away from China and we have over 300 cases. You're telling me this is normal? That the virus is aware of borders and acts accordingly and acts differently in different countries? I mean, that's just... there's no logic to that. And I suppose the response to that, people will say, well, the lockdown is working in some countries and not in others, and it depended on the time they had the lockdown. Well, to that I say, let's wait and see. I mean, I feel that this virus will go down in the summer, and that's why we're getting the rates are seemingly peaking at the moment. And also I think that they'll make a comeback once the winter comes in again. So it's something that we will have to deal with again near the end of the year. If this virus is as bad as they say, then staying at home won't be 100% foolproof, because how do you stop this? How do you stop spreading this virus from family member to family member? Or when you go to the shops. I mean, the shops, people queuing and hitting the shops must be one of the most obvious places to spread this virus. If you go walking in a quiet countryside laneway, or sunbathing in a secluded beach, that's dangerous. I don't know. And also the borders are still open, which is really funny. I mean, it's either all or nothing. And it also seems that the virus is a bit racist, because it doesn't seem to like refugees too much. They seem to be totally immune from this virus. I mean, they're still coming into countries, and the borders don't seem to have stopped them from arriving and traveling all over the place. You know, I mean, that's just one government scam after another. Taking into account all this, it seems that the virus has a mind of its own. I mean, it seems to be a very clever little fucker. You know, I mean, it seems it's also random. You know, I mean, you'd imagine if there was a virus, it would be affecting people in the similar ways everywhere. You know, and all over the place, and people would be dropping everywhere. I mean, I don't know anybody that's got it. Also, this stay-at-home bollocks. I mean, what a joke. The hottest weather we've had so far this year, and they're telling people to shut themselves away inside. You know, they can fuck off, because I'm out every day with my kids, walking the parks and woodlands, enjoying nature and the lovely sun. And you know what? There's loads of people doing it, young and old. So, stay at home. Give me a break, freaks. Anyway, here are my more immediate thoughts to Tim's video. Always follow the Swiss. You know, those guys who did the banking for everyone during the World Wars. I mean, they're pretty on the ball when it comes to the economy of the world and finance and things like that. That's their speciality. And so some points to note. In 2018, the Swiss government bought about 31 billion euros worth of gold to prop up their pensions, on top of what they already have. And it's always important to note that Switzerland maintains the world's 8th largest official gold reserves, with holdings of over 1,000 tons of gold. Now, that figure was the end of 2019. I think they actually might have doubled that by now, or more than doubled it. And I imagine it also doesn't include individual holdings of gold, which could be quite high in this country. Another thing to be aware of is the Basel III agreement, which was an international accord where gold was moved from a tier 3 to a tier 1 investment for banks all around the world. And this enabled them to hoard more gold, more of the nice shiny stuff, without worrying too much about regulations and quotas, which they previously had to. So this meant they could get rid of a lot of the worthless paper, i.e. money, that we all have in our pockets. You know, so not be too worried about having money in the bank. Well, there's not much money in the bank these days anyway, physically. But this makes it even less so. And also, I just read that while most people were pissing in their pants and going out and buying reams of toilet paper and tin food, the Swiss, they were doing the same with toilet paper, but they were also queuing to buy physical gold from banks, from gold dispensaries, and from the refineries that are in the country. Now, 70% of the world's gold is refined in Switzerland. So, you know, there's gold, and more gold here. So much that they shit the stuff down the toilet. No kidding. So why am I going on about gold, and why is this important? Well, as the guy in the video said, for sure you can't eat gold, but you can prop it up against your nation's currency and banks with it. And gold has always gone up in a recession. It always performs well, it holds its value, and people always crave and lust for gold. It's just something that people always want, and it's, you know, it's kind of recession proof. And before you ask, no, I don't have any gold. I've actually nothing in my bank account, but hey ho, that doesn't bother me. From the video, it mentioned that Germany might renege on its debt. Now, I hadn't thought of that, but I do think America definitely will. And it will tell China, who holds a lot of American debt, to do a number. They will say it's compensation for causing the coronavirus. And I think a lot of countries might do this. It'll be interesting to see how the Chinese people react when they know their leaders will be left holding the can for a lot of the world's bad debts. I also envisage that a lot of Chinese companies abroad will be nationalised. They'll be taken over. In Italy, in Spain, in Greece, you know. And also I see that a lot of Western companies will bring their operations out of China, take it back home. I mean, just the other day, the Japanese, I see, are taking a lot of their manufacturing companies out of China. And again, I expect a lot of nations to follow. So, you know, the Chinese, their economy is going to be in ruins. It was already heading that way with their banks. So the Chinese were played big time. It's lucky that they have a big army with a lot of young, angry, single men, and a leader who cannot be ditched or removed. So what usually happens in times like this, well, let's just say I wouldn't want to be in Taiwan or Hong Kong anytime soon. So another thing to look out for is that large companies around the world will be bailed out by the governments of the world, while the small to medium industries will fall to the wall. Same old, look after the big boys. That never ends. Unemployment will rise, but don't worry, you know, all those renationalised industries and those cheap manufacturing firms that are returning from abroad, well, they are now the new sweatshops, but this time in your country, this time in the Western world. The options will be stark. Get a job, work for peanuts, or you starve. That's the choice people will be left with. Added to that are new poorhouses and soup kitchens for those with nothing. And some countries are talking about universal basic income. I see Spain are thinking about that. So how will this be paid for? Well, higher taxes for the middle classes, probably. There will be a bail-in in the banks, so they'll get money that way. As I said, with debt write-offs with China, that will save money. So this universal basic income will be tied to you being a good citizen with a nice clean social credit score. Do as we say and you get your peanuts every week. And remember, boys and girls, to take your vaccines, thanks to the new global leader and also kind Bill Gates. And what about Ireland and all this? Well, Ireland will be rightly fucked. I mean, because we bought into the whole globalization shtick a long time ago. And when all those American companies go home, and they will, Trump will call them back. And when the euro is burnt to the ground, and it will, and the fact nowadays that our farmers and fishermen, they forget how to do the basic stuff, and with the supply chain stopped, you know what's going to happen. And we have a new leader in town, the great almighty Micheál Martin. So the country's in a safe pair of hands. You know. Anyway, if you think the gay Indian or Martin on the country, then you must be on some sort of chemical substance. I mean, they couldn't run a bath, never mind the country. So, we live in very interesting times. I suggest not to worry too much. I mean, this is a time for a period of true self-reflection. Take time out with your families and your loved ones. Enjoy the nature of your local surroundings. Do some housekeeping. Do some reading. Learn something new. Learn a new activity. And consider what it means to be you. You know, don't be a slave to the system. Try and live your life to its full potential. And don't feed the fear porn merchants of doom. The world is fucked, but hey, it was always like that. Just, you know, grab a beer and enjoy it all from the sofa. And remember, it's just a ride. And I'd like to finally finish by suggesting that everyone check out Thomas Sheridan's work and videos over the last few weeks. He's been pumping out a video at least once a day, sometimes two, sometimes even three. I look at them every day, and they're like a public service announcement. They're really great for the mind and the soul, and you know, Thomas is really on the ball with all this coronavirus bullshit. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description box below, and yeah, check out his stuff. I really like the way Thomas, he has a great knack putting all this into perspective, with some esoteric thinking, and he has a good dose of Dublin wit, you know, so it's really fun to watch. Really is a great tonic in these times of dark propaganda. So check him out. Okay, that's me finished. I'm gonna go out now and play some football with the young lad.